So recently on the channel I've been looking at a lot of alternative operating systems, stuff like FreeBSD and that kind of thing. So in today's video I thought I would take a look at Haiku. Now this isn't a review or anything, I thought I'd just do a quick experiment and see what would happen if I tried to install this on real hardware. Now it's been many years since I last used Haiku, and last time I tried to install it on real hardware it didn't work so well. But quite recently, Beta 2 of Haiku has been released, so I wanted to go ahead and see how this would run on real hardware. Now for those who don't know, Haiku is an open source operating system that's essentially a re-implementation of OS. And I'm going to go ahead and try to install it on some real hardware, right now on the Linux Lounge. And here we have the device that I'm going to be installing Haiku on. I also have the USB that I'm going to use to install Haiku. Now, as I said, this is a ThinkPad X220, so it's not new or completely modern hardware by any means. However, it's still something that people are maybe likely to have. So I have no idea what's going to happen, and this video isn't scripted or anything, so your guess as to whether or not this is going to work is as good as mine. But with that said, let's go ahead and see if we can install Haiku OS. There we go, let's go ahead and boot it up. And there we go, that looks fairly promising. We've got the Haiku bootloader. Let's go ahead and boot it up. Continue booting. And there you go, as you can see that booted actually really quickly, which is quite impressive. And there we go, here we are in the installer. Now, everything looks good. Let's just boot to the desktop real quick first to see what's working. And by the looks of things, we have native resolution, which is a good start. Let's see if we have sound and stuff. Apparently we do, although I'm not sure how we would test that. Do we have Wi-Fi? That's a good question. I'm not actually sure if there is a Wi-Fi applet or anything. Yes, we do have Wi-Fi. That's fantastic. So, first impressions, it seems that everything is working, which last time I tried this, I didn't have any Wi-Fi and I didn't have any sound. So we're off to a good start already. So with that said, let's go ahead and install it. Now I believe the installer is in the applications menu, which yes it is. So let's go ahead and continue. No partitions have been found. Partition, yeah, it sees my disk. That's good. So we can just go ahead and format that. I believe we're supposed to use a B file system. Yeah, I do want to format it. Format, write changes. There we go, now we're at the point of no return. So let's go ahead and install it. Now, typically when I'm installing something, I would usually have to speed up the installation process, but in this case, I don't think I'm going to have to, because just look at how quick that is. In fact, that's kind of an reoccurring theme with Haiku. Everything is just really fast, which is quite impressive. And we're nearly done with the installation. So there we go, everything is installed. So I guess if we just quit now and reboot, let's see what happens. So restart system, and let's just remove the USB. And in theory, we should now see it boot up into Haiku. And that's not terribly good. I'm not sure why that's not booted. Well, I'll tell you what, I will disappear for a minute and see why this isn't working. Right, well, I've figured out my mistake. As it ends up, Haiku doesn't yet play nice with UEFI. It does have a UEFI bootloader, but it requires some manual configuration to get it working. So I thought it was just easier to switch my ThinkPad to legacy mode. So if we go ahead and turn it on now, we can see that it should, in theory, work. And there we go, you can see that we have the Haiku boot screen. And there we go, we now have a full install of Haiku OS. Everything seems to be working. So I'll tell you what I will do. I will go ahead and install a few things to see how everything's working, and I will be back in a bit to demonstrate that. And we are back. Took a little bit longer than I expected, because what I had to do is essentially go in and mess with all the audio stuff in Haiku. As it ends up, the default sound drivers do not actually work on this particular laptop, and I think for a lot of HD audio devices they don't work too. So what I essentially had to do is go ahead and install another driver and blacklist the original driver. So I think what the Haiku team should probably do is just make the other driver the default, or at least include it by default. But honestly, even after I'd installed the driver, everything was still a little bit of a mess on the audio front. But I did eventually get things working, so I'm just going to demonstrate it right now using a game of Super Tugs. So let's just go ahead and see what happens. You might be able to hear that the sound is indeed working. can also see that the game is running fine, although a heavier game like Mind Test didn't seem to work. So that kind of says to me that we're either using not very good graphics card drivers, or we just don't have GPU acceleration. I'm going to probably assume it's the former, but with that being said, I'm still pretty impressed by how well everything is working. And for a smaller operating system, I've got to say this is all very impressive. And to be honest, I did a challenge a while ago where I used FreeBSD for 7 days. I can honestly see myself doing this with Haiku as well. So stay tuned, and I might well just make a 7 days of Haiku challenge, because I've got to say this is very impressive and has definitely matured since the last time I used it. And as you can see here, we've got the package manager open, and I've got to say there's a lot of very impressive packages here. I saw stuff like Critter, Audacious, OpenShot, that sort of thing. You know, it's very impressive, all of the packages that are available on Haiku right now. So with that being said, yeah, that's installing Haiku on real hardware. As you can see, it works really well, and I've got to say this is a very nice operating system, and I'll definitely be looking more into it in the future. But with that said, I think that's it for today's video. Stay tuned for more Haiku content, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.